Okay, this is Willy Hammond, age 9. This is his first SRV done in July 2013. Pardon me. So, okay, there's a number of things we need to work on here with Willy, which is totally understandable for a kid his age. So we will start here looking at his motion. One of the first things we want to work on is this non-throwing hand. You'll see how it starts out bent and on the football. And it really should stay in this angle right there the whole time. When he's going to start his throw, it should just come off the football, and then this elbow should drive down like he's trying to break that glass table, as if this line here were a table that was behind him. So it should come right off that angle and come right down onto that table. You'll see instead what happens is it straightens out, and now his non-throwing shoulder is actually higher than his throwing shoulder. And we want it the reverse. We want that non-throwing shoulder coming down, which makes that throwing shoulder come up. And the result is he's got kind of a sidearm motion here. You'll see the ball is even with his head at this point. It should be above the head while it's still in his hand there. We have the U here instead of the C, but I wouldn't worry about that with Willy right now. All kids that throw this age have that U. And you can be in his ear as you throw about trying to move that hand on the side. That's literally going to be months and a year to get that right. And even then it kind of slips back underneath. So that's something you're always kind of working on. I would really focus on this arm, keeping it bent and driving it down, because that non-throwing arm is coming straight out and then swinging to the side here. And then, the arm on the other side is going to do very much the opposite of that, which is getting that ball way too far away from his head and it's too low. And that kind of creates that sidearm motion. And then you'll notice here when he finishes out wide rather than down in his pocket, right? And that all makes sense because the ball's out wide and it's coming across. That's where he's going to finish, kind of opposite that. So we really want to work on that non-throwing arm. I think something that will help that is this leg here. You'll notice that toe's pointing in a little bit, a little pigeon-toed. When that toe's pointing in like that, it tends to kind of lock things up and not let them come through. So when he starts his throw, his toe should be pointing directly that way. And then as he takes his initial step, it's about a half step. You don't need to take a big step when you're throwing a football. And then that toe should wind up pointing straight this way towards the target, rather than pointing in like it is right now a little bit. That helps open those hips up a little bit, lets that other leg come through. So those are kind of the main things. We'll look at the other angles, but it's kind of the same throughout. Get one here real quick. This is his second throw from the front. We'll just watch it in fast motion, and you'll see how he just kind of whips it sidearm. So you saw there, the ball kind of started out wide here. It was even with his head, and it just whipped right across, and look how high he's finishing there. That hand should be way down here. So he's got a little bit of a sidearm motion. Again, not all that untypical for this age, and that's why we're doing this, and we'll get him headed in the right direction over the next couple months. Here's the side view. So you see right here he's got this nice bend, and he really wants to just keep that same bend, take his hand off the ball when he's starting his throw, and really start to drive that elbow down. You'll see here he straightens that elbow, and that arm's straight out. And right now it looks like it's moving forward, but it's moving sideways, right? And he's twisting sideways, which is keeping that ball low. You see here how the ball's low. It's not in by his ear, it's out wide, but it's far too low. And then he's finishing high up in his midriff rather than down in his pocket. This back view gives us a really good teaching tool on the things to work on. So here we've got this center line. If you can ever throw on a line, that's great. You want to get those feet, both. That center line should go right through the middle of his feet so that he can see if he's stepping off it. It comes through here, that non-throwing shoulder is going up because his arm's going up, that arm's straightening out. So he's kind of inverted here. That shoulder should be lower and this one should be higher. And that creates the kind of sidearm motion where he finishes way over here, high and way outside his body. That arm should be down inside his body, finishing in that pocket. And you know you're not throwing sidearm when you have that finish. Now we'll look at this last angle. Again, you just get a good look here of that arm, putting it perfectly straight and coming out to the side rather than that downward motion. Want to get a step in there. Sometimes he steps a little, sometimes not. So let's try and get consistent there where he's standing on that midline, feet pointing directly that direction. And then he steps off the midline, and then his his first foot's in that direction, and then his back foot will come in and also finish in that direction. And that will clean up a lot of that sidearm action that we're seeing. Okay, so now we're back to the front for kind of a wrap up, and there's a lot of things here, the 5 things, and as I said, you never try and work on all 5, certainly not with kids this young. So I'm going to give you the couple things I think you really should work on. First and foremost, we're going to get a lot straightened out if we can work on this non-throwing arm. He's got that nice look and that nice bend there, that nice angle there. We want to keep that angle. Just take his hand off the ball and start to drive that down and towards his back here, right? That sends this non-throwing shoulder down and will send his throwing shoulder up. That right now is by far the most important to kind of start getting out of this kind of side-winding motion. The other thing I would emphasize now that will help with that is, get him working on the line, get his feet pointing straight in that direction there when he starts, and then get him to take a step where he steps off that line, and then his lead foot ends up pointing. Lead foot would then be pointing directly in that direction down towards the target. So if he can get that step straightened out and that foot pointed in the right direction and off that middle line, and get that shoulder, that elbow, keep that angle in there and that elbow going down, that should bring everything else through the body. It should send the ball up higher. It should get him finishing or closer to the pocket and get more of that vertical football motion than that kind of sidewinder motion. So that's what I'd work on in the next few weeks. We'll check in a month or so, see if we see any progress. If not, we can look at some other ways to maybe teach this, but hopefully he'll absorb that and look better the next time around. Just so you know, there are a number of other feedback tools that I use a lot, particularly with the older guys, particularly this angle tool. I end up doing a lot with this. But for now, I'm just using the pointer. These young guys just getting started. There's some simple things that they can work on that will go a long way. And let's check back in a month or so. Thanks.